I'm worried about the feedback, so let me see.
So where is Debbie if you're taking Debbie's place?
You know, I'm not sure where she's at, to be honest with you.
She just didn't want to be here for this.
Well, she was gone today too, so she must be somewhere.
Testing. No.
Yeah, did she say she was going to Salem? Oh, maybe that's correct.
Massachusetts, they went first.
And Greg was giving her a hard time at the strategic planning meeting about it. And is Susan out of town too, I think?
Yes.
Still in, okay.
Yep.
Actually, and we setting up Zoom for her.
Oh, cool.
Oh. Oh, that's right. Testing. Nothing.
So then do I need to find the Zoom meeting?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Probably to share your screen, yes. So I will send you the link just to be safe. But I'm trying to figure out if I got the speaker set right or not. I want to be able to hear Dr. Norton if she were to log in.
Dollar.
You need $1, is that what she says? Delivery fee?
No such thing as a free lunch.
Well, so it's coming up there. It's not coming up there.
Breaker 19.
Well, we'll see. I'm not seeing it coming through.
Come in, Pigpen. It's Rubber Ducky over.
How about now?
I don't know. How about now?
Anything on there now? Nope,
Nope.
nope,
You
no
don't like me
sound.
now?
So,
Come in.
those speakers are off, I promise. I'm trying to get these on Zoom meeting.
So is Susan going to try to get on via Zoom?
That's what I was asked to send her a Zoom link for that purpose, so.
Where does this go back to?
Let me show you. There you go. You'll know next time.
Do you need to grab anybody else's while we're?
Oh, man, okay, let's see.
Did we get a new projector?
I think that covers the TV.
Oh,
If we'll have anybody here to. All right, so. All right. Not coming through there. Not coming through there. How about? No. Okay. Doesn't echo. Through here.
I'll look for you. I'll tell you my dollar.
We'll just transfer that. Where?
That's cool.
That off.
Okay, Kelly and I are ready. Let's get this done.
Yeah, let's do this.
What are you laughing at?
Let's make some decisions. What do we need to do?
You're still a probie here. Just remember that.
I know.
Both of you.
Both of us.
Well, yeah, I'm like, I'm newbie. I just, please don't make decisions where I have to like write a bunch of stuff down. If I mess it up, Debbie will be like, you're fired.
Oh, are you trying to keep notes?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm kidding.
And I'm like, but Clint promised me today, he goes, we'll get you all the wording you need. I'm like, thank
We
you.
will.
Can you imagine me frantically? Please speak one word at a time.
Well, if it's all, is it recorded at all?
Yeah.
Then you-
Oh.
So let me send you the Zoom link and we're gonna try your system out and see if it works.
Okay.
So.
Don't guess I'm gonna need my, well,
Yes? Well, you're at the wrong location.
Well, it's saying over next door, but it's only go to administration, it's by 2. I can either drop it here, or they can bring it back tomorrow or whatever. Either way. Chris Ferris.
There's a
That's
sign
where
on
we
the
go.
door that says Amazon.
17.5. If
There's a
not,
sign on the door that says Amazon, deliver next door. If it's after 4:30, come the next day.
You sure?
Sign right on the door.
That's not like. I get the feeling he doesn't want to come back tomorrow.
I get that feeling too.
Like, feeling around.
All right, what are you looking for?
The HDMI?
You won't have an HDMI. You're gonna connect via that Zoom link,
And then present.
and then you're gonna share your screen while you're in the Zoom meeting. So you'll
Okay.
need to mute your computer. Or turn off the speaker.
Got that done.
And then
And you
I
said-
emailed you the Zoom link.
what?
So you're gonna join the Zoom.
Muting You things, appear to I be need turn my offline. Ringer off.
What's that?
I appear to be offline.
You must not have internet. You know internet? We'll get you some, I promise.
I've got
We care.
academic.
We care.
You.
Yeah, I do. Come on.
Should I be on? I can't be on academic. That's the one that's trying to connect.
Yeah, there should be the admin.
Yeah, that one was giving me trouble today. Let's see.
What about the guest?
Checking network requirements. I'll go get.
Nothing else. I can always share my screen.
Yeah, you can. Then I can just work on my computer.
Yes, yes, you could. Yeah. I really, if you connect to the Zoom though, I really want to see if it
Yeah, no,
works.
that's fine. I just gotta get my email pulled up. Here it comes.
Because these speakers are not putting out any information right now. And it may be on that computer in there.
Google Workspace. Come on. It's not working.
It's Zoom. We're talking Google. Crazy talk.
Okay, the academic, I'm just disconnecting from. Goodbye.
Now tomorrow you'll wonder why you can't connect.
Oh, I've been wondering that all day. Can't connect to this network. Fine, I'll go guest. I'll be a guest in here. Just give me internet. Look, there's the Zoom link.
Jen, do you have any idea how many hours you got invested in this little thing?
No, because if I track it, I'll cry.
I was about to say, you probably don't want to
I really do.
know.
I mean,
Okay, Clint, let me in.
there you are.
There I are.
Woo-hoo.
Let's not do that, shall we?
Oh, come on. Nope.
Missed it, was it?
Oh my goodness.
Let's. Oh,
yeah,
you have to be careful. You're like, no world. End up with your
He's
feet.
picking you
I
up
feel like I'm watching TV.
Could be snoring over there.
That work?
Man.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
The only thing I haven't tested is the sound.
So how do we want to do that before it starts?
Take it back into your office and then try to
From here?
Oh, yeah.
close the door.
Got your microphone turned on?
Okay, I'm talking.
Oh, right down there, it says it's not muted.
Hold on, you made me turn my sound off, so I can't hear you. Does it work? I'm not singing. Can you hear me now?
Definitely talking. It's not coming through.
I was talking. Can you hear me now? It could be on my end. Let's see. Microphone. How's that? Can you hear me now? One it's it. Hello, hello, hello.
Did you guys hear me? No, he's going to do something.
Oh, I was like, are you just leaving me in here to see how long?
We can hear you.
The meeting will be quicker that way. So Kelly, how's your job going?
It's wild and crazy. It's going.
What do you do?
I'm the food and beverage manager at Century 2.
That is a
Center
crazy
of Performing
job.
Arts.
Yeah.
So it's nuts here coming up real quick. I've had a couple of weeks to breathe, but we're trying to gear up for, there's a couple of conventions that are coming through. There's that big holiday galleria that Junior League does every year. And it's happening at the same time as Kristen Chenoweth is in the building for a concert. And a Comic-Con is happening in another section of the building that I have to do also. So
Now, they used to do Christmas parties and stuff upstairs.
you still can.
Do they still do those?
Yep.
Is that yours too, or is that coming out of the hotel?
It will be shortly. So.
Hey, this is Judy. Hey, I'm sorry to call you, but
So I worked at
hey,
Century 2 for several years.
I got,
with catering.
Mr. Hurst sent an email, asked me to
It's
hook it up
management
so that
company.
Dr. Norton can
I work for them
participate via
now.
Zoom.
they're
So
getting ready
I've
as
got
of
the
January
Zoom working
1st.
and the projection working, but I don't have the sound working.
Getting their
I
catering
can't get the
company
sound
ready
off the
for them.
laptop that's in Christie's office. come through
As of
speakers.
January 1st, then that would also be me
They-
for all their catering needs.
It used to be a great kitchen over there. I'm sure.
I
it
know
still
we ran
is.
into this before and you said there was
It
something.
is,
that
well,
was-
I mean, I think when it was originally built, it was probably the state-of-the-art kitchen probably in
It
the
should be,
area.
but it's not coming through. So it makes me wonder if it's not coming through on
No,
YouTube
it's-
Live as well.
That's one of our problems right now is it needs a lot of new equipment and stuff. So, and trying to source that stuff right now is incredibly hard.
I see it. It's unmuted. I can see, but it looks like we're talking.
And in all honesty, it's been
Speakers
hard to
here.
even find people that want to work.
Okay,
The key there is work. They want to pay, but they don't want to work.
Because we've had an ad out forever for like an executive chef for that.
yeah, if you could,
We've only had a couple people.
you need me to send you the link again for the YouTube?
Qualified to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then you need a whole banquet staff and all that. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was so involved with the chef community anyway. And so many people say, would tell me, yeah, I'm a chef. I says, oh, really? I says, you're CIA? Are you CEU? What? Are you CEC?
Yeah, it's not coming through the speakers. I've got them
Never
plugged
mind.
in,
Never mind.
pushing it down. I tried the
You're a chef
button
because you
go
call
between
yourself.
Bluetooth and the other. And
So we've had a lot of
Comes through
issues
the
with
speakers.
that.
There's
There's just
a
a
lot of
lot that
that.
goes into starting all of that up from scratch. So when I'm not actually having to run and schedule and work events, then I'm trying to get all that going too.
Okay,
I-
but
I
it's
hope
not coming
it
off that
helps some
computer. So I'm just wondering if
With
I got
the gals starting the chef school
to go
downtown.
check and make sure,
It may help.
see if I got it muted or something.
Butler County starting theirs.
I definitely think once we can get an executive chef. I think ideally it would be fantastic to reach out to some of those things because I'm guessing that would be great experience for these students.
It'd be great
I'll still-
experience for our students.
I'll still pay them. I don't have a problem paying them. I just have a really hard time finding people that are willing to come in and do that kind of work. And if they're willing to do it and it gives them great experience to put on a resume. So, and then, so I took the job in February and the director that was over, so the same company that runs Century 2 now also runs Intrust Bank Arena in Warfield. So the director that was over all three of those buildings for food and beverage quit about a month in.
She hasn't
So we've had no director
submitted
either.
to log in.
And lady that runs things at Intrust was newer than I was and had never done it before even that. So
Quite a
I've been
kitchen
over at
over.
Intrust a lot too.
Quite a
Coming
kitchen
off
over there as
the
well.
computer through the
So,
headphone jack to these
I'm just
speakers
trying to
out
help
in
her get her
the
concessions
board
up and
office.
going and running right. Like she has Backstreet Boys tomorrow night, so I'm gonna go do Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, that's the only way we can have it interact unless we just have her call somebody's cell phone. We can
Maybe
always do that as
one.
well.
And then she's got like Keith Urban
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
up.
And just have her call
I have
that.
I have two
there. She
events
just
going
came
on
on,
at the same
so.
time. She has Keith Urban. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So,
Contact Brooke up at the high school. Well, she's in our system as Jackie,
Jackie.
JCQUE
Oh, okay.
Ward. She runs the culinary arts up there.
Is she related to Jill at all?
No.
No, okay.
I don't even know if she can see us. but-
She should be able to,
Okay.
as soon as I turn the camera on.
She's got some kids that do dynamite stuff.
So we were kind of got on this a little bit at the strategic planning thing. So she's running.
Hi, Dr. Norton, can you hear us?
Is she connected?
Sure
at
can. Can you
all
guys hear
outside
me?
of that, Or is she
Okay,
just?
perfect.
creating that
The only
for
thing
herself.
is, we can't hear you back yet, so we're working on that issue.
Contact
I
her.
can hear Susan.
She's not part of ProStar.
Hi, Jen.
ProStar's got
Hey,
problems.
how's it going?
Good.
So
She's-
you can hear her.
she's
I can hear
teaching the
Susan.
kids what she
Yeah,
needs, they
so
need.
why is it not coming through there?
And that's obvious when you.
I
got-
don't
Gotta
know.
be careful because you're gonna get feedback here in a minute.
Because I met it's probably been a week and a half or so.
Okay, I turned off my speaker, so no feedback.
His last name is Lutz.
But Susan can probably still hear me, right, Susan? Okay, you can't hear, we just can't hear you.
And that may be all we need
Okay.
for her to be
He's
allowed to
also
work
part
in
of
the group.
ProStart and he's helped like.
Is what?
And
As
one
long
of
as
the
she
districts
can
around here.
hear through on one of our computers.
One of what
Yeah.
they've done, and I think Hazel could benefit.
But if
from
she
is they
speaks
have
back,
found Ways to get.
how does that
outside
work?
Things even for like new equipment and things like
You can hear
that.
her, right?
So, like,
If I turn off my,
some of that.
I've turned my sound off.
That would be great for him.
So if I do that, it won't get feedback here.
This was probably to work, and I don't know why they're not working.
So do you want me to turn my sound off?
Yeah,
Yes.
Because I mean,
I would love some kids that.
let me know when that's
Send her an email.
done and I don't want to hear it.
I gotta wait till I have to go in there. I haven't gotten nothing done. I still gotta buy.
That's what we'll get here.
And so how does that, I mean, can we turn that off?
There,
Well, we have.
How are you, sir?
We gotta turn those here.
for what?
Just so we can't have your sound on. So if we can't get these speakers working, we may just have to have her call somebody else.
Okay. Okay. She's giving it a thumbs up.
Did you see me?
You can.
Susan,
Hello.
Can she hear?
Yes, you can.
Hi, Greg. I see
I've got
you.
your name placard.
It's gotta be
Can you
something
hear me,
similar.
Greg?
Play nice, Greg.
Just because you're at the microphone doesn't mean I have to.
Exactly, I know this.
And the meeting hasn't been called to order.
I can try.
You have the thing down there booted up. It's not that. That's always what I forget.
It's worked many times before. I don't know why it's not working. So.
Yeah.
We don't do or do not need our computers.
You may, if you want to look at some of the independent stuff on your own, but you don't necessarily have to. I think she's already sent everything and then she's gonna provide some copies of stuff and you will be different in groups.
I didn't fall for it this time, Tom. Tomfoolery is what they call it.
We are. We are live at this time, just so everybody knows. So you guys start. All right.
Oh, there's the man of the hour that can help with our technology.
Unless I just did something wrong.
Probably just pushing the switch.
I guarantee it's gonna be something simple.
I didn't realize, I told you once Friday. Full moon or something. I didn't realize till we come back from the baseball game. It wasn't full moon.
It was, yes, it was. What was missing was the 13th. Tell you what, they are so close. To win. Careful, the court, please. They did some really good things.
We were at the May South game a week ago taking some pictures. And I thought, campus is just. And my granddaughter, we texted back and forth Friday during the day. I said, "Remember, this is Jesus."
What's wrong with them? Well, let's ask Dr. Norton. Dr. Norton, can you speak
Yes.
now? Yeah, it's not the speaker, but I have that.
Good.
I tried that. We competed.
We were up there the night.
No, the sound is streaming out live to YouTube. It's on Jen's computer when she goes in the other room and opens hers, but it's not coming off that laptop to these speakers.
Okay, so
So
you cannot hear me.
That's good.
That's a big.
I have the power to hear you, Dr. Norton. Nobody else does.
I'm sorry, Jennifer. I really am.
Or Jen, she said at 6 o'clock and then she was coming over there. She was gonna take 6 o'clock. She said she'd introduce somebody.
Hey, Jen,
I don't need this.
Jen Reed, can you hear me? Hello.
Jennifer's. David installed something called Something Relief. And will we be using that tonight?
No,
That's for another.
that will be on the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be on the 19th. You bet.
How are you? Good. Doing good.
How was your trip?
Good. Good. Relaxing.
Yes, rent a place down there?
Yeah, we're in a cabin every year. After Labor Day. Depends on. We go with Becky's phone. This year, we got out on a couple times and the boat stopped working. So. There's nothing else to do. Enjoy nature and. It's hard. fourth year, fifth year, going out there. something like that.
Jen, I have money for you. For Hayden or Hadley. Yeah, for my little gnome thingy or play.
We're already set up.
Okay.
So let's just get a phone. So Dr. Norton, we're gonna get a phone set up out here and have you call in, so you'll be able to you'll be able to still hear everything, and then when you speak, it'll come over these speakers and everybody will hear you as well. Look over.
Yeah. I'm not that fan. I tried really hard.
We're gonna start at 6:30 or hold off until we get this phone.
As soon as we have the phone up, Dr. Norton can call the number that we can't give us. We should be ready to go.
Where's that?
Was it just thrown at me or something?
Yeah.
Just on the table. Yeah, it's gonna go to the table near one of the microphones.
Stick it in your ear.
You're one of the microphones. I would stick it in my ear. That's the way my day's going.
I've seen that.
It's about school choice.
Yes, I see that.
We all know this.
Code word for privatization.
That's what you get turned.
We'll take it.
I was going to one more time. Such a fast. I didn't want to have to pick it up for a fourth time, so I just wrapped it around myself. So it was.
And then if you just tell Dr. Norton over the speakers what number to call.
It would be better if we call her.
Okay.
That's not the inbound line.
Got it. Dr. Norton, if you want to just put the chat number to call.
It worked out really not good. What meeting? Just checking.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
I will triple check.
Is that a sweet one?
It is. Can you check?
You do the 655-0363. Perfect.
Oh.
Hi, Dr. Norton. You're gonna have to, on your computer, you're gonna have to turn off your speakers.
But then she won't. Okay, so mute
She'll hear it
herself.
over the phone. No, not the muted, the speakers themselves. Otherwise, you'll continue to get the feedback. So down on the bar, you'll see the speaker. You just X through it. And then you'll have to listen through the phone and be able to talk through the phone. And I apologize about this. For some reason the speakers are not working.
Is that better?
Still echoing. Yeah, it's because of her computer.
Susan stuff.
Yeah, she needs to hit mute right here. Or she needs to go to her speakers.
Speakers. Right there.
She can't see me doing.
No, she can't.
That doesn't help.
Good demonstration.
Thank you. Just call me Vanna. Oh, yeah.
Sound
Yes. Good on this end. Can you hear us okay? Okay.
Well, if she's working in a group, that group will work over there.
Yep.
And
We'll
she
just
should
flip
still
flops
hopefully be able to hear us.
Tom.
Hey, Doc, when Jen and Clint present at the mic, if you can't hear us, let us know and we'll move the phone closer for you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, guys. Sorry about this.
No worries.
Are we ready now?
Yes. we're ready.
Special meeting to order.
Good afternoon or good evening. Tonight is a follow-up to our previous special meeting on elements of the district and building needs assessment. Tonight, we are going to provide you with an oversight from the district perspective, get some input from you. Jen and Clint will lead this process, so I'll turn it over to those two at this time.
Evening, thanks for guys being here.
Hello. Okay, well, we're going to start by just revisiting again why we're doing this. This is a result of House Bill 2567, which is the gift that keeps on giving. So we're going to review the state assessment results and complete the needs assessment. As a reminder, we're looking at data from the 2021 school year. And then we'll be looking at the 21-22 school year after we complete tonight's work. This is tied to finance. And
So just as a reminder, when the bill was passed, there are 3 questions that we answered last time in groups that kind of helped us out a little bit. Part of this needs assessment requires us to go just a little bit deeper in looking at this down to the building level. So that is kind of the purpose here. And so this has an impact, and in the past, all of the actions we've taken when it came to approval for expenditures were things that were tied back to assessments or evaluations of the needs in the schools or the needs with the students. And that's what this comes back to. Now, the law formalized it to specifically 3 questions that we needed to make sure we answered together, that you all addressed as part of this prior to our approval of the budget when on the 19th when we hold the budget hearing.
okay, and those 3 questions are: what are the barriers that you see based off of the state assessment data that you looked at? What are the barriers that you see we have to overcome for all students to score above proficiency? So again, level 3 and level 4, even though level 2 is considered proficient or grade level, they don't use proficient with the state assessment data, but they do use that term here. The second question are: what budget actions would you take to make sure that that happens? And then the third question would be an estimate of the amount of time that you feel 100% of those students, 100% of our students would fall into levels 3 and 4 on the state assessment. So that was the work that we did last month. We answered those 3 questions. You answered those 3 questions as a board based off of your work in groups and looking at the data. Speaking of the data, this is kind of what you looked at. You also looked at subgroups. Thank you. So this is the district data for English language arts, math, and science. And remember, the blue line is the data points that we're looking at because this year's data is not ready yet. It's not cleaned up and approved with the state. What Clint is giving you right now is the data by building. So again, it's a 5-year span of data for English language arts, math, and science by building. And up here, it tells you what building it is. Again, sorry for the wonky stapling in the opposite corner. It is front to back, so it starts with campus and Haysville High School. Remember, they are one building. And then on the back of that is Haysville Middle School, and then Haysville West, followed by Freeman, Nelson. On the back of that is Oakville and Prairie, and then Rex and Ruth Clark. So that is the data that your building principals looked at to answer these questions. So you guys looked at state assessment data. from the district level to answer your portion of the questions. And then I shared this with building principals and said, answer those same questions based off of this data. Make sense? So you guys will have an option to see when we work in groups. I will project this too, so you'll have access to district and building level. But of course, in Haysville and in all other districts, we don't just use one data set to drive what we're doing and to make decisions. So we start at the grade level or content area professional learning communities or PLCs that we have weekly or monthly, depending on if you're elementary or secondary. So those teachers meet and they look at data, not just state assessment data, but they look at FastBridge and they look at common assessments and social emotional data or just observational data, and they talk about that. And then they compare that to how we're doing with implementation and what curriculum they need. And they have those conversations. And if they need something or they question something, they move those questions up the chain to either the learning facilitator, who's kind of in charge of instruction in the building, or their principal, or they meet with both. Or they might jump on 261 help. So for example, a fourth grade teacher jumped on 261 help and was distraught. They gave the iReady beginning of the year assessment. And she got on help and she was like, all of my kids are in red. And she was freaking out. And we said,
and just to clarify, red's not good.
Yeah, red's bad. So red would be like your 2 or 3 kids. And we said in iReady, there's a little button that you push to change it to beginning of the year benchmarks. What she did was she tested her kids and those scores showed up for end of the year, which is fine because they haven't had any instruction in that grade level yet. So we said, hey, click that button. She clicked the button and she about cried. All but 2 of her students were in green, which is benchmark. So iReady, one of the things that we suggested based off of our meetings last year and based off of what teachers were saying was we need more MyPath for our iReady kids. That's working. Well, that's a good example of the fact that what they saw was working because that 4th grade class are all in green with only 2 yellows to start the year. And that's with the summer slide and all of not having all of that. So just a little sidebar conversation. But from principals and learning facilitators, they take that information to their building leadership team. So it's starting at the grade level or their content area, and then it tracks up to the building level leadership team, which then they contact learning services, which includes myself, Krista, Shanae, our curriculum assessment coordinators, Lisa, our director of instructional technology, Angie, our director of special education, and Penny, our director of the learning center. And we look at implementation and fidelity of implementation and how long it's been since we've adopted curriculum and what we can do to help. So when it gets to us, that's when we look at implementation, and it's kind of a cycle. Then we go back to the grade level PLCs and we talk about it. So when we're looking at a building needs assessment, even though they're saying, look at the state assessment data and answer these 3 questions, know that every day, every week, every month, we're looking at beyond that. We're looking at the whole child.
And then just as a reminder, because when you guys see the budget at this level, you are seeing a district level budget, and it's a summation of all of them. The unique qualities of each of those facilities does dictate that they would have some unique fiscal needs as well. And for that reason, every one of our facilities, every one of our schools, everyone that you're looking at this data, they do have autonomy over a set of account codes so that they can customize, they can bring in additional information, that they can address the unique needs of their students at that level. And that is worked directly into their budget, and it is based on the configurations of the building. So while they may not all get the same amount or the same account codes, they're given the autonomy to say, well, we were going to work on this project and we need this here, and our students have identified here, and then we give them that freedom. And you give them that authority within the budget to have authority over those account codes and to make those individual decisions based on the building level.
So another example of that is I went to the buildings this year and I said, we have accelerated reader, and some of the buildings use it and some of them don't. So they got to make that determination. Do we want to use accelerated reader? With the pandemic, we had several vendors come to us with free subscriptions to like Brain Pop Junior and Pear Deck and all of these other things that we can't support necessarily at the district level, but if the building sees a need and sees good improvement with it, then they can choose to support that with their building funds. So it brings us back to our building needs assessment, which this is your area here, but I'm going to open it up because we're going to put you in groups, but I want to show you what you're looking at first. So down here are these tabs, and we're going to put you in groups by secondary and elementary. So one group will have 5 and one group will have 6 to look at. And I want you to look at, and you can't see the tabs, so that doesn't help when you're sharing your screen.
Sorry.
Well, let's see. Down below, you can.
Yeah, it won't go down.
You won't see it. On the video I showed you down below, there's 2 tabs for every building, and you want to look at CHS State Assessment Review or HMS State Assessment Review. It's a longer tab. There's one tab that's just got the building name, and there's one that says State Assessment Review. If you're looking at the State Assessment Review tab, how you know you're in the right place is you'll see the yellow box and you'll see the same 3 questions that you answered. But these are the building level answers to the questions. So the buildings were charged with meeting with their staff, looking at the data that you have in front of you, and then responding accordingly to the same 3 questions that you guys did. So what we're going to have you do, you're going to get into the same 2 groups that you were in last time, except Tom. I'm going to put you with Greg and Kelly, and Dr. Norton, since you're over there on the phone, I'm going to put you with Jen and Jeremy and Courtney. Let's see, who wants secondary? All right, Tom raised his hand, there we go. So Tom and Greg and Kelly, if you guys will look at Campus High School, Haysville High School, Haysville Middle School, Haysville West Middle School, and Tri-City, and look at those, how they answered those 3 questions. And then Jen and Jeremy and Courtney and Dr. Norton, if you will look at Freeman, Nelson, Oakville, Prairie, Rex, and Ruth Park, and look at how they answered those questions and see if there's any common trends. See what kind of data that you glean from that. Because what we're going to do is we're going to share out what you're thinking, not necessarily from this data. This is just to show you what they looked at. You're going to share out what you noticed on how they answered those 3 questions. And then we're going to, at the end, look at the way you answered those 3 questions and see if we need to add, delete, change anything from your responses. So what? Yes, sir.
In there, needs assessment, evaluation, action may be taken. So as we're studying, analyzing, suggesting, what would be the action we're taking? A motion to spend more money, a motion to be done May 1st. Maybe I'm not on the same page.
Ms. Coleman had put that on there just in case. We do not plan to ask you to take any action today on this. This is a review. You're going to give us your feedback. We're going to put that in the minutes, and we're going to use that information as we move forward. But we're not asking the board to take any action on the needs assessment at this time.
Great. What will happen long-term is next Monday night when Clint presents the final budget, part of that process will include that the board has had a chance to review 3 questions and input into the document in regards to the needs assessment. That's what's required by law. So that's what will happen next Monday. You've had 2 meetings now to look at the data. The next step will be, he will present a budget. You'll be asked to vote yes or no on that. And part of that will be, did you have access to and have input to the needs assessment? So that's in regards to what's required now by law.
So to answer our legislators for HB 2567, we're going through a process. And when do they want our answer? There's not a right or wrong answer, it's just our answer.
What will happen is the state will prepare a report, and then that report will be presented to the legislature. I don't know what that will look like at this point, Greg, to be very honest with you. I don't know.
I'm not sure they know.
Yeah, so they will be developing this.
So they're taking information from this district and 180 other ones.
That's correct.
We have to submit, and then they will utilize the data however they choose to use it and present it to the legislator as completing this process. And the thing to remember too, as we've talked about many times, this will be done almost monthly moving forward. As you recall, the bill went into effect July 1, and we had to have this done prior to our budget being completed this year. So they didn't give you a year of grace. So a lot of this stuff that we're going to be bringing to you, like if you can recall last year, Jen brought the iReady to you and said, this is something we would like to do. That's part of the budget decision process. So most of this stuff will be covered throughout the school year. You won't be faced to do in the same expedited manner that we're doing it now.
So you're not foreseeing an additional meeting per month by the board or with?
No.
Okay.
No. Hopefully it will be included, the information you will need as we bring new ideas forward will be included in the monthly meeting like they would have been in the past. And all of what we've done in the past has contributed to the completion of this document now. It's just because we have to complete the actual document and submit it, and we had from July 1 until September 19th to complete it. That's why we're having the special meetings to review the data so that you have that input. Jen will bring you data once we have the last year's 21-22 data. She will present that to you throughout this year so that, again, you're completing those steps instead of doing them over 2 special meetings. Does that make sense?
Yeah. As you are, I'm still perplexed though. I mean, who's the steering committee? If we have questions, who's the guy, girl, Topeka that you go to, since this is all new, but we'll figure it out.
Yes.
We have to. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, well, we're going to give you about 15 or 20 minutes to go through the data.
Sure.
Just to start, remember, you're just looking for trends, ideas, things that jump out at you. If you want to check your email, I went ahead and shared the document, the building needs assessment, again with you. So it should be the last email you received from me, or it should be just right before this meeting started, so you can open that up.
And if you need more time, as we'll start with the 20 minutes. If you need more time, we'll extend.
All right.
What? Can't hear you. It's noisy over here.
Hold on, Susan. I gotta move you.
Okay. Am I moving?
Yep, you're moved. Remember to also turn you down. Okay. Okay, so I started going through a list and then I started marking what each elementary school said. So right now I'm on Prairie.
Okay.
And
That's correct. Okay,
I've-
let me get with you.
I've gone through so far and said Freeman, Nelson, and Oakville have all said attendance and foundational skills are missing. All 3 schools said the same thing on those 2, so.
Are you just looking at A?
I'm only looking at A so far. I was just going through A and then I was like, I don't know if somebody else wants to break up and do B and then we can come together and say kind of what we've seen.
Yeah.
So if, and then there's also C. If somebody wants to take on.
Freeman's is blue, not yellow.
Now, which one is? Which one of the answers came from the school, which one is now? On the one you're looking at, that has individuality, those all include. So, those all include. None of those are our answers? None of those are your answers.
Oh, okay, I'm just making sure.
Okay, here we go.
Are you guys good on where the data is located?
Yes.
What you're looking at?
Yes. We're not very noisy, so we understood.
We understood.
That's right.
So wait,
Yes, sir.
A, B, and C.
You want to look at the assessment?
Yes, look at the assessment review.
You guys tell me if you want me to do something.
Okay, can you look pretty for us right now? Somebody has to.
Jeremy, you
It's
have
not
also,
me.
so you have to go back and forth, you have all their data that they look at here.
Zoom account.
And the district data is projected if you want to compare.
Users that have extended. But I student accountability, well, it says.
It's off and on, honestly. I just feel really.
Good to see you, but I didn't
know. Like I'm just tired. I don't feel sick anymore. I'm just tired. Like I just can't.
Okay, so there's nothing.
Resolve, nausea and headache. I had a low grade fever Friday, but it broke. was able to go to the football game because Jace was playing with the band. And then Saturday, but then the rest of the weekend, I was just like it just, I mean, I walk across the parking lot and I'm just like, you know, like, I don't know. So, but overall, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Jaden's super sick. I don't know, I didn't really hear, but Jaden was one we tried to keep out of the hospital this weekend. It was tough. Okay, so this is Prairie Rex. Self-regulation.
So there's.
Did you add that there? There's Did you add that in the presentation there?
Yeah. I'm gonna pull it up and they also have, you know, since they're looking at it now, they can just go over that tab. It's kind of funny.
I would say that. I would say that. I'm open. Testing skills.
I'm gonna say I can see a clear line of every single school saying the same thing.
Yep.
Don't rush. If you need more time, we'll give you more time.
Hello, team.
Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
I'm just Debbie Do. I kind of messed with C a little bit. If you guys can do A and B, at least I could be helpful on C.
Perfect.
I was doing C2.
But then you guys can make sure that you both say the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure Jeremy's doing a better side.
Let's see. Foundational skills. Let's see. Here's Clark. Our students need the formal language register modeled and expected, not tested. I would say tested.
This is they copy and paste. It's the exact same thing. So I'm sure it's gonna get possible for students to keep it.
They're the same building. That's why.
Is that what you?
Haysville High.
Okay. I'm like, they cheated. I'm like, dude, I started that.
I'm telling Mr. Hirsch on you.
Oh, I won't be able to do that. I'll have to stop.
Sorry.
I'll share. Share screen
Resources.
so I can type.
Just can't do the presentation.
No big deal. Okay, Jen.
I have all those numbers, so no, it's under. Hazel Mill.
About 775-ish. They were right under 800.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, about 250 or 200 of them would be.
Okay, I'm done with my.
City.
Yeah.
Is that considered primary also?
Mhm.
Or K-12.
But they're considered in our, wouldn't we, because I think they're still look at track, right? They're looking at Haysville High.
Yeah.
We look at track.
No, I think, don't you have them using Tri-City as well?
Yes.
Secondary, yeah.
Tri-City will go secondary because you have 6 buildings that would give them.
Okay, fine. Well, I counted him and it doesn't matter. So then,
Tri-City are counted in the state assessment scores of their individual side building.
okay. Well, then I counted them in what I did anyway.
Yeah, Tri-City and Haysville High School don't have their own scores because they don't have their own building.
Their programs versus
But we still
schools.
have them completed because they need to have those
And we're
conversations.
looking at top 3, or are we looking at top 3 that we saw, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, how many of our common themes we saw?
Whatever you guys can do for.
Yeah.
Well,
Prioritize.
and then all then I would do is say like, everybody said attendance, that's the first priority, and then I would just move down
It's
into
pretty consistent in all of them.
about 25 themes in A. So I put family, finance, social involvement, family being one important one. Trust me, I know what it says. Oh, wrong, Jennifer, sorry. So Jennifer, so same thing you do with my peers.
You are.
When we're in a meeting and you're like, oh, Jennifer, like, it's not me, you're talking to her. So you almost did it. I saw you almost.
I was pushing to the limit, almost to the click. And I thought, nope, pull back. Mess with her a little better.
I lost you.
I knew there was something. Yeah, okay. Furniture training for fast bridge.
Well, they've all had fast food for how long?
This is our second year.
Yeah, it's the second year.
So it's all, you know.
Yeah.
What kind of training have
They've had training for their PLCs by their learning facilitator. We also kind of dove in a little bit with Savers and My Savers the spring before we adopted FastBridge. So they would know how to implement that.
Are we live?
Yes, we're live.
So it's gonna assess other stuff, but it's also, I think, that take it and it'll ask, like, how do you feel about certain things? Like, it's going to let you drill and see which student, I think, right?
Yeah, reading that also is emotional.
That's not even for the, like, look at a specific student.
Absolutely. You can start district-wide, building, grade level, teacher, student.
So just encourage teaching staff and more training. Is there a biggest one? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
English language arts. English language arts.
Yeah, lots.
We know it's English.
I'm ready when you guys are.
Same.
All right, you guys have been at this for about 20 minutes.
Or more.
Are you guys, are you still,
Yeah,
are you
about
done?
I'm done. I'm ready when you
Oh,
are.
well, okay, we're on. Okay, so I just thought, do we want to go over so we all know as a team what we came up with? Okay. Susan?
Yeah, I hear you guys.
Okay, so on A, I went through and I put together what I saw and then I prioritized them just based on the same number of schools that responded. So the first one was like, I think almost every single school except said attendance problem. The second was foundational skills are missing. Third was family involvement, financial, emotional.
Wait, what was A?
A is identify the barriers that must be overcome by each student to achieve grade. So attendance, gotta show up. They're missing foundational skills. Family support, emotional, physical, financial, etc. There was a tie between next would be behaviors, lack of staff, and curriculum. And then there was a tie between ESOL, retention of staff, and testing strategies were missing. And then there was a whole bunch of spannings of everything, kind of something specific that impacted their particular building. But those were the common themes for most of them. What'd you find for B?
So B was budget actions that should be taken. So the first and most common theme of all schools was funding for interventionists, social workers, mental health specialists, whatever you want to call it, across the board, across the gamut for each schools. Then a couple did mention actually adding some kind of classes or education or support for parents to help their children at home to prepare for school or just use educational tools at home to help them in school. There were a few that actually said hire SRO, more SRO officers for home visits and truancy to help with attendance. Additional staffing, they'd like smaller class sizes. I think only one specifically referenced classified, but just additional staffing across the board. ESO bilingual assistant, but they were all kind of mentioned throughout, except for the funding for the interventionist social. Any kind of therapy was definitely a #1 theme. I was a little surprised only one mentioned fully funded special ed.
That's fine.
I did too. I only had one.
Yeah.
That said that it was a problem, which was prayer.
So C was easier since it's just a time scale. The most common one is 3 to 5 years. Couple 6 years. The big thing that they say affect that is attendance and staff, and then curriculum change seems to be a concern with slowing the progress of getting to proficiency. Some training, parents involvement, mental health and social workers is mentioned at Rex.
It's very interesting to see the themes across A, B, and C because some of them are the same in A, B, and C themes.
Yeah.
Which
If it's a problem, you want money to fix it.
And honestly, if they fully fund special ed, we could do those things.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, putting $8.5 million back into our budget would certainly make a difference in dealing with some of the other issues we have to deal with. I interrupted you.
No, I was done.
Okay.
That was all. That was
Did you
all.
find anything else you wanted to add in?
No, I looked at B and C and honestly, you guys got it right on time. So, good job, Pete.
Ooh, way to go, team.
Go team.
We beat that loud team over here, I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Efficient. We're all
Which is,
efficient.
you know, their input is basically the same as ours, pretty much.
High school levels.
No.
Oh, what our review was last time we met.
Yeah, it's very similar. So.
I don't need you to fix it right now.
That's the only-
You're supposed to fix everything, just fix it, you know, and it's like, we're not here to be, this is, I'm fix it too, Larry, right? I remember two months of my. Right, yeah. There's just a lot of moving parts.
Have you called Mark?
Well, I thought I got to send it today 'cause you guys-
Cindy?
All those, there's one trying to go to state.
What else are we supposed to talk about, guys?
I think we solved problems.
Well done.
Well, they don't do it.
We're done.
And they're trying to avoid those.
Yeah.
I mean, older.
No, I don't think that's right.
So, the other side is that.
So I'm sure.
We are waiting for further instruction, Dr. Norm. Said we're waiting for further instruction.
I was gonna say it needs to be forever, yes.
They need to know that they could.
I'm scratching my sunburn.
I mean, that was bizarre. I was not looking at you to only hear that part of the conversation.
Yeah, we have a little discussion about other things, all right?
That's what it is, right?
I do it.
Yeah, same. You're a giver, I am.
I told her, are you taking those? That's what's good, all right.
Just keeping Susan updated on what's going on.
We've got to figure it out.
They have to, he has to come to that.
But they will say we do it.
Whatever you need is important. I mean, those are the ones we saw.
Goodness.
All right,
And it's
Almost, you're getting there.
Yeah, bring it all back together.
Yes, please.
figuring out when we go together. We're not.
So while the secondary group is coming on back, elementary group, can you share with your counterparts some data that you gleaned, and I'm gonna be the note taker over here for you.
So do you just want us to go in sections like A, B, and C and?
Whatever you want, however you'd like to share.
So A was identify the barriers that must be overcome for each student to achieve grade level proficiency on assessments. And what we found was the number one issue was attendance. That was pretty much across the board with every single school saying the same thing. Attendance was problematic.
Okay.
Number two was foundational skills missing. Skills were missing. Number three was family involvement, emotional involvement, financial, etc. There was a tie between curriculum, behaviors, and lack of staff.
Hmm.
And then the next subset, there was another type between retention of staff, ESOL, and test taking strategies.
You were the group last week that had your whole page, right?
Hey, you just mind yours. And I asked the question first, what do you want me to tell you? The rest of them are sort of lots of peppered, really good ones, but more individual building versus common theme.
Excellent.
Right? Secondary.
Yeah. Well, we had everything in secondary to people who wrote novels to people that had 4 bullet points. So I got it. Yeah. Again, our number one was probably attendance as well. And I think that all stems back from not having to attend for a couple of years. It's just carried over. And we recognize it, the staff recognizes it, but apparently the parents and the students don't recognize it. So somehow we got to get them to understand that. The other issues we had was staffing. They felt they were short of staff and training of the staff. They felt like what was that plan again? The thing we just switched to?
Fast Bridge.
Fast Bridge. They lack the training in the Fast Bridge. That's probably because it's fairly new. They haven't used it enough, and we've got a lot of new teachers. That probably didn't help that situation either. And then social and emotional.
While you guys are on attendance, I do think it's very good timing. Tomorrow in the afternoon, we're having an attendance meeting at the Dr. John Burke Learning Center, and we've included secretaries, counselors, and principals to talk about chronic absenteeism, student attendance, and then working together to get some consistency across the board and to start looking, this is down the road after we get the consistency together, to look at educating parents on attendance at school and what can happen and just bringing that more to the forefront because we need students in seats so they'll be able to learn. So we're starting that process tomorrow.
Is the attendance irregularities worse in any particular, in elementary, middle, or high school? Do you have those numbers, that data?
We do have those numbers. I will tell you that it's really not. It's kind of the same. We've got it by building and we have it by grade level.
I guess what I'm saying, if it's a trend in the high school, it might be difficult to stop. But
it's a trend. It's a trend K-12.
Okay, well, I guess if you're asking me for a solution, I would start K through 6 or whatever. If we can turn that around, because they still got 6 to 10 more years to and I don't know if we can.
Those kids rely on
ship or not, if that's where the problem is.
And we are, I mean, we're going to start whole group first to make sure that we understand what the data is. So we're going to share the data and we're going to look at board policy, what it is currently, because as you guys are looking at board policy, some things we may have to bring up versus their handbooks, make sure that everything's aligned, make sure that it's consistency, set some goals, set some next steps. And then we might break off into, now we're going to meet with secondary, now we're going to meet with elementary, and those might go a different direction. But we're going to bring everybody together next, or actually tomorrow, and get going. So that was really good timing.
And this is a good point to point out that, and while I'm not a big fan of this bill, I am a big fan of the idea of us looking at the barriers and looking at the causes, because it's given us many things to consider as we plan professional development. The feedback from the buildings has been excellent. The principals put together quite a bit of information that can help us in several decisions, and it puts in things together for us to ask some questions, do more some investigating to find out.
So, I mean, just like you guys were, we've already kind of dove into their responses, and some are the building specific responses. We're already setting up PD for specific PLCs to go in and start talking like Fast Bridge at a specific building. We're going to make sure that we're there with that and other things going on. So it's been really great because we can get down to what each building really needs and wants and provide that for them.
I may be reaching here, but is there, even though the students may be in attendance in a classroom, is there problems in the classroom disruption where students may be there but not learning, so they're in attendance, but they're not attending mentally, socially, whatever.
There absolutely is.
So drilling down, I don't know if that's a problem or not. You know, classroom discipline can affect one student, as you know, can affect the other 20, 25.
Mhm.
Did any of those teachers expound and say that's a problem?
We came
It's not
up,
absenteeism, but it is absenteeism of.
that is more after we get alignment and we get consistency, we can drill down even further, but that also goes with social emotional needs, which we're doing on the side here. So we're gonna meet with attendance, but we're also doing stuff with social emotional that will help. But right now, we need to get consistency across the board. We need to make sure that our data is clean, that we're entering it correctly, and figure out how to educate parents while we're doing the social emotional piece.
Greg, as part of behaviors, one of them did specifically say that they would have somebody who was a deterrent, a distractor, that would then take the entire class down when they were trying to take tests and things became problematic. So they did specifically say exactly what you're saying.
Sue Gibbons used the word multiplier effect. That's
Right.
what I'm saying is that one student multiplier effect can affect learning. And
The other thing to remember is kids have not been engaged for 3 years. When you look at being educated at home through a computer for almost 2 years, that in itself is especially in that developmental stages, is a tough thing to overcome. And all of a sudden you've got adults asking them to do things that they're not used to being asked to do, and being held accountable in a different way than they may have been held accountable for the last 2 years. So while we have a attendance issue, part of this is procedural. We're not consistent across the board in how we're just simply doing attendance. That's a problem we can fix very easily. Once we get that in place, then it's going to be determining why is Jeff not engaged, why he's here. He's here, but he's not engaged. You know, that's but right now, I think for us, we need to be consistent in our approach. I think the number, if I remember correctly, was 54%. Does that sound right, Jen? Was our absentee rate for last year?
It was close to, yes, I believe so.
54%.
so you're saying any given day, 5,500 5,000 students with.
No, 54%. To be chronically absent, you have to be absent 10% of the school days. So we're saying 54% of our almost 6,000 students were absent more than 18 school days last year.
That also included the pandemic.
I was gonna say, are
It
you
would.
adding all the COVID absences into that too?
Yes.
That is something that we are definitely, I mean, we had a lot of COVID absences last year. However, we also had COVID absences the year prior to that, and we doubled. We went from 25% to 54%.
We only had from December, we only had half a year that year before, correct?
Yeah.
So you're comparing.
No,
Is that?
No.
2021 would have been in time.
2021, yeah.
21,
So-
22.
I see, okay. I thought-
so there, I mean, that's another reason for this meeting is not exactly to drill down to the why, but here's the what, here's the data. Let's look at the data and let's focus solely on that and make sure that we're consistent across the board, and then we can drill down to it. That's why we have the data by building, by grade level.
Because I'm not sure your absentee numbers are gonna be super accurate with like, here's just kids not wanting to go to school versus here's kids that we told to stay home because you were close contact. You know what I mean?
Correct, those kids would be listed in that.
And
They would.
54% of kids were
Percentage,
chronically absent.
That's not kids that necessarily were trying to
No.
stay home.
That's why this year will be.
That's why this, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But we need to make sure that we're coding it correctly because we did find coding errors in PowerSchool.
We're not procedural, we're not aligned.
I would get notes.
Mhm.
So you've already formulated some solutions. You're not going to wait until the start of the next semester. If you come up with a solution, you're going to implement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're starting tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
we
it.
need to get this basically under attendance. We need to get the procedure in place, have the expectations of all principals and secretaries follow that procedure. Then we'll have accurate data. But then I agree with you, Kelly, in the fact that I think right now, when you look at last year, the number of kids out, well, we brought you to that last year, the number of kids who were out by the number of days. It's part of one of our meetings. And so when we made a change second semester, our attendance rate went up when we quit some of the contact tracing and some of the things we were doing. At that point, they did go up. But part of this too is what you're referring to, Greg, and that is lack of engagement, like kids who have been engaged for 2 years. I mean, that's a challenge. That's what teachers will tell you is a challenge every day.
Well, in our reading here, some use the word truancy, which is illegal, it's law. Others are using absenteeism. So it's a combination of both. So it's truancy, we gotta get the parents. We gotta get after the parents, in my opinion.
And quite honestly, truancy is defined by law.
Right.
3, 5, 7, 3 unexcused in a row, 5 in a semester, 7 in a year. That's going to be identified at that point as that kid's truant. And so what we have to be is consistent on when Jeff calls in to excuse his son, and I say this is the reason that he's absent, we need to be consistent. Or is that an excused absence or unexcused absence?
Okay, now.
Because right now we're not.
Okay, that comes back to
So
the
he's
consistency.
just
Okay.
coding these things differently as they're being called in, is the issue.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we have to clean up first. And Jen's got a committee together that we're looking at that, and that
So
will
then we
be,
know if we really have a problem or not.
then, once we get coding correct, then that should, in conjunction with our current COVID practices, where unless you have, you're positive, you come to school, then, hopefully, we're gonna see that decline, but I don't know what the number was prior to COVID. Do you, by chance, Jen or Clint, know what that number is?
Prior to
Prior
COVID,
to COVID,
I can pull that,
absentees or-
I can pull it up.
That's not right now. I just wondered, you might be something we're prepared to share.
I will tell you that we've doubled. So it was around 25% that were chronically absent.
Can I jump to the end or conclusion of all these that you've seen and digested and understood? Is the one that you're going to focus on training or absenteeism or funding? Is there one that administrators are going to concentrate on?
Well,
Do you already have a good idea?
prioritizing absenteeism will be priority one. We gotta get kids in school so they can learn.
Okay,
But we are also focusing on social emotional. We are also in the middle of 2 curriculum adoptions. So we've got a lot of plates in the air spinning because we believe it all is important. Priority one right now is getting kids to school.
And you'll find, as you can see in the principals' reports and their teachers, there's not one silver bullet. You do this, everything else is going to be fixed. But like Jen said, just getting them here, and keeping them here for an entire day, and keeping them below 18 absences for a year, obviously is a great start. And so that's where we need to focus right now, is making sure we're consistent in how we're approaching absences and how we're approaching truancy. Because right now we're very inconsistent.
All right, thank you guys for the barriers and the similarities between the groups. The second question,
Oh.
is that all you wanted to have them share? Did you guys come up with any others besides those? Is there anything we missed?
What did you have on B? Anything different?
Well, just the barriers. Do you just want the barriers like A or all of it? B, C?
B and C as well. Just
Yeah.
other things you feel like we
We
need
just
to
broke hers up by A, B, and C.
Sure,
Okay.
so start with B then.
well, I mean, one of the things that perplexed me and maybe some of the other group is that teaching, and the best example I said is that when math, teaching consistency. You teach math at 1 or 3 or 2 or 3 elementaries, you get to middle school, and they're still not understanding it, because the middle school teacher may be teaching it differently. So that was a thread that we saw in a couple different areas. Reading with understanding, math with understanding.
So then under the budget, I will put consistent curriculum, math curriculum,
They would like consistent K through 12.
which is awesome because we are doing a 6-12 adoption.
Well, and the other thing I heard you say, Greg, was delivery of the curriculum, consistent delivery of the curriculum.
I mean, use the example of attendance, doing it the same way. I mean, and I'll show my 2 + 2 is still, how you teach it, is still the same, but for some reason they stated that when they move up the ladder, the teaching is not the same. So I was perplexed why that was a barrier, or why we have that barrier.
What about budget?
So he's talking about, yeah, secondary, okay. I just saw you typing, I'm like, don't type that in right there.
Nope.
We just got through A.
Correct?
Yeah.
It'll go faster because I'm not gonna interject anymore. So just give me some,
Yeah.
We didn't do B and C. All we got through was A. So
that's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's okay.
So elementary, exhaust your budget.
Well, B kind of goes A, so if they saw concern, they wanted to fund it. Funds for interventionists, social workers, mental health, anything that goes with that. Another theme across the board there was classes and education for parents, actually, to prepare their students to be ready for school or parental involvement. SR officers for home visits and truancy. Additional staffing for smaller class sizes. And really just additional staffing across the board for all needs. And then ESOL, bilingual assistance. And at the elementary level, I think if I remember correctly, there was only one that said fully fund special education.
This one said it.
One said it, it goes.
They
on
also
the
said it
list.
as a barrier as well. I just didn't do the peppering of.
Sure.
All right.
So C was how long it would take to achieve grade level proficiency. Between all of the schools, it sounds like about an average of 5 years, some are a little less, some are a little more. They did include barriers to achieve that, which goes back to section A, but the biggest, most common thing they mentioned was new curriculum, and adjusting to the new curriculum will slow the progress.
Yes.
So I want to make sure the secondary group, you guys need some more time to discuss budget items, or do you
Oh, we
want
got
to
some
just
meeting.
pepper some out?
Yeah.
You want to throw some out as you, from the information you learned from the section A?
I would say section A, the staffing would probably be part of their budget concerns.
What would be?
Staffing, because they were wanting more staff and training, so I would think those would be things that we mentioned in their budget needs.
Just to use HMS in particular, they estimated that 25% of their students have IEPs, which is roughly 200. And to administrate, to track, to report,
To modify.
if you got, and I don't know how many personnel they have now, but IEP, the person, I don't know where they're at on the spectrum, the IEPs are, but that seems a big load for only 2 or 3 counselors that are doing that, but that was one of the things that falls in the area of personnel.
And not just counselors, teachers, they have to modify everything and they have to do not just IEPs, 504s.
What's
A
the
lot of work.
What's the ratio for IEPs of gifted to special needs? Because gifted is.
Are they all
We have, I believe the last count that we had was slightly over 100 gifted identified students, and it's down a lot. It used to
Is
be
that
around-
district wide or is that just municipal?
Yeah, district wide.
District wide.
That's district wide.
Okay, so not middle school.
As
'cause
far as,
Middle school, that'd be 50%.
Right.
Gifted, which is
yeah, no. HMS, I believe there's somewhere around 20 maybe.
okay, so it's not a large percentage of what
And they have about 1,100
So,
IEPs in the district.
so out of 1,100, only 100 of them were gifted.
And that's because there's more and more identification of students. Yeah, and that's dropped. We used to be at around usually about 122 for gifted, and it's continuously decreasing.
But that brings its own set of learning opportunities, I'll call it.
Yes.
Because their needs are on a whole different level, but they still need additional.
Right, continue to push
Yes.
them, continue to push them higher and higher and higher, not stagnate.
Right.
You are correct.
Anything else for budget and secondary?
Yes, sir.
It's a suggestion, maybe I'm solving it, but I think we need a class, or we need to advertise. There is a untapped group of individuals, I believe, including myself. If they knew or had some training, how to volunteer, what they would be doing, how many hours a week. I don't know if we can set up something at the learning center or not, but we're talking staff, and some of the staff requirements, they need time to plan and other things like that, but playground, lunchroom, reading, whatever else you need, let's say senior citizens or stay-at-home moms, or whatever, parents that would be glad to volunteer. I think there's people are out there, but they're not sure how to get to the school. Some are bold, which is go to the principal's office and say, hey, put me to work, but I think we need to either advertise or say that we would use your help or can use your help. and make them feel comfortable. We'll give them training, make sure they have a badge, give them a schedule, and so on and so forth. I think that would help a lot with our staffing issue. And it'd be a low cost, not cheap or free. And I don't know, how many people do we have that volunteer at school? Do we have that number?
No, not many.
And the problem, Greg, I will tell you, you're exactly right. We have a lot of people that have talents and skills that can come in and help us. I think the thing we run into is consistent volunteer. You might say, this week I can volunteer for a day, because you're going on vacation. You got to watch your grandkids. So I can maybe do a day that week. It's that consistent that we can plan on as a school, that we know every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Kelly's going to come in and she's going to work at Nelson in the 2nd grade, assisting with reading. And it's great when it works, but unfortunately, a lot of times things come up and it gets pushed to the side by the ball. And I get it, it's a volunteer situation. We'll take any volunteers that want to show up and work. But I think the hard part is planning for the consistency.
And that's what you're telling me is the barrier. We're talking about the barrier. It is the barrier. So what can we do to overcome that barrier, to drop that barrier down? The buddy system. Tom and I would be first grade at Mrs. Smith's class. We would read or help with math or whatever. I mean, we've got to figure out a way to get this help here. I mean,
I think relying on volunteers is not the way to go, because as Mr. Hirsch said, it's inconsistent and they have no obligation to be there, so we can't really count on them.
Well, in training, because we talk about students that are somewhat behind when we're trying to catch them up. Sometimes not just having somebody come in and just be like, I'll read to you is what we want. That's not helping that student, maybe helping control behavior.
But it works. I put increased advertisement and training for additional staff.
Yeah.
Whatever that might look like.
Yeah.
Susan, you had something you want to say?
I was gonna say, as a volunteer, sometimes things happen and they have to go to Pennsylvania and they have to. So,
But you're still here.
that's the reality of what's going on with volunteers. I did have one other question I was gonna ask, and that is around funding special education. We know for a fact that if this year, if we were fully funded at the level we're supposed to be by the state statute, we'd be somewhere between 7 and 8 million. Is that correct?
That is correct. That would be 7 to 8 million in additional dollars.
Okay. My thinking is at this point, is there any way, I thought Mark put some really great data in from the middle school, middle school, about how many IEPs he has, how many kids he can serve, and how many kids he can't. Is there any way to do some kind of an average cost per student on an IEP and see if we're even covering what we've got now, or if we're robbing Peter to pay Paul just to handle what we have now? Because I'm betting we do.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely.
Yes, that can actually be done, and I will tell you before I even crunch the numbers on that, we are taking general fund money to make sure we pay for the staffing we have now, quite a bit.
And I think, I'm not sure that our legislators really understand that. I don't know that they really understand to what level we have to run Peter to pay Paul.
Sure.
And I think in my mind, that's something we need to somehow put into this. To say, here's a way that you can easily fix it for us, and here's why it needs to be fixed. And all of this looks like why it needs to be fixed.
We completely agree. So we're adding fully funded for special education to both secondary and elementary as
That's right, it says that on the front.
awesome.
Tell us where you got it, and we'll all buy one too.
I will.
We get Laura make us one. Okay, for secondary timeline.
Timeline?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still on B. Let me look at it real quick. Come on. If they did theirs, go ahead and I'll look through these real quick.
They did.
They're complete.
But I will say, while you look, I'll say this, hey, Greg, and the other part you're right about is trying to figure out the value add to parents, right? Because we have a hard enough time, a lot of parent involvement is what came up as kind of a common theme. And it's the same problem we have PTOs, PTAs. Is that we have to show them the value add. So how can we show them the value add to come volunteer? Because maybe that's where we can get them to start getting involved.
Like I said, if we are wanting the key factors to rely on, no, we can't rely on them, but we'll take what they can offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then if they show up to school on a volunteer, is there a volunteer coordinator who's got a spreadsheet that says, we need help at this aspect of it? It's a defeatist attitude that I don't see or have, is that we're depending upon them, but we definitely want them there. So I don't know how we muster that.
Provide them value that we can get them involved. That's part of the reason, is, yeah, opening that door, telling them to come in.
Okay, I have your answer.
Great.
What do you have?
Just on your guys' conversation, so I don't know if this would help or not. I don't even know if it'd be something that we really, want to pursue, but I do know that there's other districts that have done this. My mom did it in Nebraska where they lived, she was retired. They actually set up, like, she would go in and she had, if you signed up and said, I commit to being here, they tell her what, like, it was Tuesdays or whatever. She went every single Tuesday and the kids read to her. She met them in the library. She had like 2 kids or whatever a week that came and met her. They read, they had a group that did that. I think some of that is there just has to be structure to that. And you're saying, I'm committing, I'm signing up for X amount of months or for the school year or whatever, to say, I will make it a priority to be here. I mean, everybody's gonna have
Something that comes.
something that comes up.
Yeah.
But if you make them say, I'm joining this program, you guys have put this program out there and I say, I'm gonna commit to being here.
And we do have that. I mean, we have that.
We do, and just because we can't produce the numbers tonight, I do apologize for that, but I guarantee in all of our buildings, we have lots of families that volunteer consistently, especially for specific events and activities. We've got people reading on a regular basis with our students. We do have that going on. For the principals here, they could even actually talk to a whole lot more than we can. But you're correct.
Yeah, I just think if you made it, if you decided to do it, make it more of a structured program where you're not just picking and choosing, because I'm gonna show up tomorrow because I don't have anything else to do.
I just think it's an untapped resource that we may want to dig into, because we're having trouble with teachers, we're having trouble with bus drivers. I mean, I'm just looking at.
They show up to volunteer for a bus, and I'll let them drive, but I'll try to recruit them.
Well, Greg, what we could do, your point is well taken. I think what we can do as a district is a better job of publicizing. If I want to volunteer, this is how I go about it.
Yep.
I think we most certainly can do that. Better job, because to my knowledge, we're not doing anything right now unless an individual school, and I know sometimes as building principal teachers would send emails out to their families and say, hey, you can come in one day a week, I've got land that needs to be cut out. That's say we happen to do it, or I need a kid read to, or whatever the case may be. So
Just to ask.
yeah,
And that's how I was reading and listening. Here's the principal asked me if I dropped in about some other issue. He says, what are you doing here? And I said, I want to talk to you. He says, I want to talk to you. So, we made a deal.
Absolutely.
And I said, which teacher? And so it was, she took the initiative to recruit. I'm not saying the principal needs to be saddled with that, but I think
well, we need to make sure our doors are open. People that are open, and if you want to volunteer, you go.
even if we only go 5 per school, 5 volunteers per school. I mean, that's 5 more than that. I'm just saying, what can we do?
Agreed.
What should we?
What'd you come up with, Tom?
You got an average on the years for?
Was it my turn?
Yeah.
I forgot. According to what they said, it was pretty much 7 to 10 years. And it depended upon how much early intervention, and this came from directly from the high school, and the 2 middle schools said kind of the same thing. They're all having trouble with math and reading coming from the elementary schools in a consistent manner. So
Never heard that.
that's, they answered that, but also added that, and they also said, depending upon the ability to finance additional staff.
I think so looking at the timeline of secondary and elementary, and it gives me hope that people out in education and working with our students are actually saying this is obtainable in 5 years, 7 to 10 years. Because if you look at what we said as a board, we pretty much said this is unobtainable it's gonna take too long coming out of the pandemic. It's not gonna happen till sped. And so it gives me hope, like people that are out there doing it are saying, absolutely, we can do it if we have the resources.
Or they didn't think they could say it's unattainable, right?
Or
So-
maybe not, yeah.
I mean, they may be like, no, we have to give an answer, and we too could give an answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at 5 or 10 years, that's just legislation change, right? That it doesn't exist anymore, now we're on to something, that's what happens.
That's a cycle in education.
I,
I like something.
when we did this exercise, I thought when we were judging the timescale for this, it was to get to what the state required, which is above grade.
That is correct. And
That's schools saying after level. That's what.
they were shared the same question.
Okay.
So they were shared the same question. So level 2 or above level 2, above level 2.
Well, their answers are specifically for grade level.
I agree. So
And we would expect that because we went to specific grade levels to get that.
yes, we did.
The question on the form that they filled out says identify the amount of time the board estimates it will take. Are you just looking at board? I'm looking at, oh, you're looking at your estimate to achieve grade level proficiency of the state assessment.
They changed the question afterwards, but we did talk to the principals about it, even though it may not have been changed on the form.
Correct.
Understood. That's what,
Mhm.
I mean, to me, that's the difference between our answer of not attainable and their answer of 3 to 5 years.
Did we fulfill our requirement tonight?
Almost.
We're not there
Almost.
yet. We're trying to get you there.
Clarification, certainly we make a law with a penalty. You go to speed limit, you get a speeding ticket. What is the penalty here? If they take away funding or, I mean, if we don't meet the deadline or we don't get up to this proficiency, make a law, there's a punishment. What is the punishment or was it investigated?
That has not been shared with us.
So really, this is not it's a law, it's not a law, it's a bill, they're requesting information for them to help them make a law, or is that?
It is one of our requirements as a public education in order to be in compliance with the statutes of the state of Kansas to meet our requirement to officially have the authority to comply with the needs assessment.
They also have a law to fund special education.
They do.
Out of way, which they don't, and there's no
Absolutely have a
punishment
law
for
that
that
says they will fund education at least 92%, and they have not met that law in years.
And there's no punishment for that.
So, others, that's a lot of good information, and we really do appreciate you taking a look at that. I think that's very important. But we want to remind you where we're going with this, because next week, next Monday, we have a couple special meetings, one for the revenue neutral rate hearing, the other for the budget hearing. We're going to refer back to this information, so I just want to remind you our timeline. And if you look at the paper that was just given out tonight in your packets, the September 8th, you'll notice our notice of hearings have been published. We will get the official on that just to make sure we are in compliance with the law prior to September 19th when we review the budget. Okay. And these are those notice of hearings. The first one, of course, is we are noticing of our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And if you remember correctly, this is just simply, if we want to have new dollars, increase in the amount of dollars, we have to exceed the mill rate that would have given us the same dollars as last year's. That's all that is. However, our mill rate, next one, is continuing to go down for the 4th year in a row. So while the value of property, which we don't have any control over, has gone up, the actual mills assessed to our property owners has gone down again for the 4th year in a row. So both of these are in the paper. Make sure the public is aware. They're welcome to come and share and have comments. We'll present both those in 2 separate meetings on September 19th, starting at 6:30 p.m. right here. So takes us to the last part.
Oh, Susan, did you have a question?
I do. Clint, have we heard yet how much the billing for revenue neutral costs the county and how much we're gonna be, charged for it next year? Because don't we have to take on some of these expenses next year?
We do. The state is fully funding it this year, and so we've not been shared, the county has not shared with us what our share will be. If you remember correctly, your initial information that came out actually had some mistakes in it because they had changed the exemption from 20,000 on homes for general fund to 40,000,
which really doesn't make a difference because schools are required to assess 20 mills in general fund. But they wanted to clear up that information and that added some of the cost. I don't believe we'll have that information until somewhere around November or December. They plan to share with us what our percent of the mailing costs will be.
And that is gonna be another assessed cost that we'll have next year that we have no funding for, and so we're gonna have to have general funds in, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, we're on the
And
home.
that's a list of things we, our barriers, our budget barriers.
That's exactly where we're at. Absolutely. We can add that. Yeah.
Budget barriers. All right.
So what you're talking about is in vernacular, it's unfunded mandates. They
Yes.
mandate something but they don't fund it. We have to find ways ourselves.
That is correct.
It happens all the time in Congress. Okay.
You are correct.
If they're gonna ask us, let us tell them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna review what you guys, the work you did last month and see if there's any additions, anything that we need to take off your thoughts, anything that we need to change based off of what you've seen with the billing level. So we're gonna go through the barriers and you all have access to this, but the barriers are very long. So would you rather just scroll through this yourself or would you rather me read them to you? Doesn't matter.
We roll through it as a group, group 3 or 4.
No. We want to get out of here.
Yeah, as a board.
We're gonna get out of here, she said.
I say we just read it to us, so we're all in the same place.
Okay, perfect. So the barriers that you guys identified last month, and a lot of this you'll find are similar to what we just talked about. This is one test on one day. Basic needs, parental involvement, things we cannot control affecting them in school. Identification of test taking tools and needs like read alouds, etc. School district money. Shifting the hours we test children. Identifying special needs beyond children with disabilities like test anxiety, etc. Fully fund special education. Under personnel, hire enough staff to support social and emotional needs being met for each student. Also hire enough staff to support learning styles for every student. Hire enough staff to support meeting IEP needs. Hire enough staff to support individual learning needs beyond those with an IEP. And hire enough staff to support social needs. Facilities, parental buy-in, focus on subgroups, consider a budget allocation for certified and classified staff compensation, fidelity of implementation to the curriculum, professional development aligns to meet the needs of the deficiencies, attendance, number of contract days, new ELA and math curriculum, ongoing cost of technology, time for data analysis to determine, I'm about to read this, I found the typo, to determine next steps, provide professional development, MTSS through instruction. Data is always a year behind, and we did add this, hopefully with your approval. Every student is different, comes to us from a different background with a different home life, and teachers are charged with working with each of these students and what they bring to school. Is there anything you'd like to add, delete, or change?
I don't see on here what the building level said, which was foundational skills.
Okay, we'll add that.
They talked about behaviors, which I think we talked a little bit about behavior. Lack of staff, we talked about curriculum is on there, ESOL is on there, retention of staff and test taking strategies were all.
Can I move on to budget? Awesome. So under budget actions, the state needs to fully fund special education. Increase funding to ensure that continuation, or to ensure the continuation of ESSER initiatives that we have in place. Additional staff to add to the budget, like liaisons. Additional staff to add to the budget, highly qualified, certified, and classified or support staff. Summer activities for students, evening tutoring, activity bus. Increase in compensation to ensure staff retention. Continual increased access to technology, curriculum adoptions, funding for professional development, facilities for smaller class sizes, additional tutoring options, expand after-school programs to all students that need it, my path for all students that need it, and additional security at campus high school. Any changes or anything for budget? Okay, finally, timeline. Until the state fully funds special education, we cannot set a timeline to achieve this goal. Coming out of a pandemic, this will take many years. It is difficult to answer this question because there are so many factors that go into this that we do not have control over. And finally, this is unattainable. Any?
There are not two timelines, it's aggregate.
Yes. These are the answers from you as a board, and that's what the statute requires.
We alluded to as a separate issue, special education. I mean, is their efficiency level, it's all rolled back into one?
Correct.
They don't have a different standard.
And
different. I'm trying to be delicate here.
Sure, on the state assessment, that's because that's the data we look at.
But
So what is the requirement for special education on state assessment?
is it wrapped into the state?
Expectations.
Expectations.
Yeah.
They take the same test.
Except for the few that we have taking a dynamic
Yeah,
learning app switched in there is also criteria for that.
Has to be 1% or less of our students.
Which as a state, it's a state requirement that has to be less than 1% also. And if every district had 1%, we're over as a state as 1% as well. So it's kind of.
Correct.
Well, one school indicated there's 25% of the students have IEPs.
Correct.
You're right.
Here. So those are all rolled into us getting more proficient. Is there any leeway that we separate special from regular ed? That's about the only way.
No, now there are certain accommodations that can be allowed for students with 504 plans or even students with general education intervention plans and students with IEPs that other students do not have.
For taking the test.
Is it waiting?
For taking
Can we use
assessment.
waiting or something like that or no?
No.
Okay.
And again, those accommodations, there's strict guidelines on allowing those accommodations on the state assessment.
And they have to be used throughout the entire school year with the
Correct. They're
assessment.
yes.
There's
There's a-
extensive testing on a few of them that has to be done.
Correct.
If I could throw out a suggestion on the last one.
Timeline?
where it's on timeline where it says this is unattainable. I want to go back to something Courtney said. And while we know the challenges of this on a day-to-day basis, I like the answer to our last on under barriers. Instead of maybe stating as unattainable, every child is different. Therefore, this is going to be a challenge to meet this in a specific deadline. I mean, I don't know what the board thinks, but I think when you look at this, that is a driving factor. Every kid comes to us. The thing I will share with you is if Jeff moves in from another district where maybe they weren't aligned at the same level or were performing at the same level, his score comes in this year with no background in our district would be counted. Same thing if Jeff comes in and he's done really, really well in his previous district, it helps us out. When you look at 10% of our kids coming in and out every year, that's a challenge. That is a challenge because we have no background and nothing that we've done within our system to support that child. That's where you owe across the state, everybody's providing what they need to do. And we know that everybody's getting a fresh shot. But I think that statement at the very end is, when we look at timeline, is critical in stating from my perspective that while we would love to attain this, this is a challenge that we believe will face meeting giving a specific number of years or number of days or whatever they want us to give. So I think
That was my answer to that question. I'd like it to stay the same because I think having 100% of students above grade level is unattainable and is a ridiculous request. And the state can take that information and do with it what they want, but it's an unrealistic goal. 100% of students above grade level is absurd.
Will be the only district that would have that same
I mean, I don't.
We're not.
feeling.
I mean, as Susan pointed out, you have private schools who have all the money in the world that can't get there. There's no possible way that we would be able to get our students to that level, as much as we all wish that we could. And
I personally don't want to sugarcoat it to them because they're putting upon us a ridiculous goal. If you want districts to achieve certain goals, the number one rule of goal setting is set attainable goals. That is not an attainable goal is not what you should be shooting for. I mean, ideally, yes, that, I mean, shoot for the stars. But to have that affect our funding is completely ridiculous.
I added what Mr. Hirsch said, but I also kept that as a separate.
Added as a separate one, we kept the final.
This is unattainable.
Well, this is the board's decision. So I'm
Correct.
going out to, if the board's not comfortable with that in there, then we need to remove it and leave it. It's unattainable.
I mean,
I would throw it out to you as a, so it's your document, you need to complete it.
Both are important statements, as far as I'm concerned.
Could I, oh, sorry, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with the fact that it's understandable, but I think we need to put a little more meat on the bone, and they need to understand, as it is the vision of our district to be a school of public education, we educate the public. We get to pick and choose who comes in our door. We have every kid, and we can do everything we can with every kid who comes to our door. With that being said, how are you trying to tell us that we have to meet a certain level when we're underfunded? We've got kids that we don't know where they're coming in the door every morning with. And we have a mandate to educate the public, not the kids that we get cherry picked, not the kids that aren't going to have a lunch, not the kids that aren't going to be IEP. Somehow we need to put all of that information in there and say, if this is not something where you're looking at apples now, we're looking at apples and apples and fire tubes or something. Somehow they gotta understand that this question is wrong. That how where you are today is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I also don't want to be diplomatic.
He likes the very black and white of this is unattainable. You're gonna give me crap, I'm gonna respond with crap, and that's how we are.
Well, the statement right above you put in there, Jennifer, says basically what Susan said. It's difficult to answer this question because there are so many factors going into this that we do not have control of.
Yeah, we added that when Mr. Hirsch was speaking, but only the board can tell us to leave it there. We
Yeah.
don't want it there.
No, the one above his.
Right.
Oh, yes, yes,
That's saying what Susan has said.
yeah.
Yes, we have it. It's difficult to answer this question because there are so many factors that go into this that we do not have control over. Now, I've taken notes as Mr. Hirsch spoke and as Dr. Norton has added. So this has been added. I can delete it, no problem. But it just says that every child is different and comes to us from a different background with a different home life. So as a result, the deadline will change based on each child and their needs. We educate the public and cannot pick and choose who comes through our doors with limited funding. Or how about we educate the public with limited funding and cannot pick and choose who comes through our
It's
doors.
fine to have that meet. It's also fine to leave a separate one that says this is unattainable.
Absolutely.
And I did leave that as the
Yeah, I
last
know,
one.
but I was agreeing as a person on the board to say, I agree with both of those things. They're both valid.
I agree with both, but I have a child who I know it will always be unattainable. So I'm like, hey, here you go. I mean,
I also have a child that.
right, yeah, I know
So-
several of us do where it's just like, I can't.
I guarantee.
We wish
you
nothing more than
everybody-
that. We just know it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's just not going to, and it doesn't matter how much wishing we do, and we can wish in one hand and we can poop in the other, and see what fills up first. I didn't say the dirty word. Quote by Jeopardy.
I guarantee you couldn't give this board the state assessment. Everybody's gonna score 3 or 4. I guarantee it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, for sure.
All of us, I say the board, everybody sitting here in this room right now, they're not gonna all score 3 and 4. I guarantee it ain't gonna happen.
Shall it? Oh, sorry.
Haven't you seen it? Or you're.
I have seen it.
Well, the math.
Oh, absolutely. Can't read.
If you don't get the highest one out of all of us on the math portion, I'm gonna have to rethink.
I know what Jeremy's saying, and it's wordsmithing. I agree totally with goal setting. Based on our job efforts and all so on and so forth. Nearly impossible is the term that comes to mind instead of unattainable, but I'm saying the same thing, because of everything that's been said. But you can put whatever descriptor you want. It's nearly impossible, virtually unattainable, unless other things line up, other things are done prior. you know, which we've already talked about.
Agreed.
That's true. We had all the money in the world.
You're correct.
It's still supercomputers and the best instructors from MIT or whatever. We still may not be able to do it. So.
Well, not with all the extenuating factors of distractors and multipliers and blah, 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 blah.
Well, and I also think too, like you were saying, 10% of our kids move in and out of the district every year. I would see that there's probably gonna be an increase in that if we do this whole, with the whole open enrollment thing. You're gonna have a lot of kids that are moving district to district to district, you know?
Is that something we need to consider? I know that
We will be planning.
well, we've been.
That's a great barrier.
We've been allowing.
It's a great barrier.
Would that be a barrier for this upcoming one, because this is now in effect for this year? So we're looking at, yeah, so
That is correct.
the next needs assessment, we can add that as a barrier.
Well, but what I'm saying is that whenever we allowed out-of-district students to enroll, we said, okay, we're going to review them, just like we look for a teacher, you know, talk to prior principal and, you know, not that we'll get the best, but we won't get the worst. So maybe we need to step forward and say, you know, let's hold on, maybe we're bringing more problems and more impossible situations. I don't know. We gotta talk about it.
That's for another meeting.
Yeah.
What else do we need here?
This is it.
Here, let me help you out.
If the board is in agreement
Close it,
with
Jen, close it.
this information, that's what we were
Can I
asking.
throw one comment out before we wind this up? And I want us to be, but I want us to make sure we're focused on this. Every one of our kid is an individual and they're not a test score.
That's
right. And if we start looking at them as a test score, we're failing, and we're failing our system, we're failing our kids.
Absolutely.
And we as leadership have to remember that this is one small piece of what we do every day. And I think it's important that we note we as leaders cannot focus on she's at grade level, she's in that grade level, he's in that grade level, he's in that below grade level. You can't, they're kids.
But we know that. How do you tell them?
But that has to be our focus. And I think as we lead our district, we have to understand that every kid brings different challenges and they're kids. They're not a number.
And if our teachers want to teach to the test, then we, some of the other skills. We try
That's
to
one
teach.
piece of the puzzle.
So we've got to look at this as a whole picture, not just the tests, the score, so that we look good at the boys and Deacons that have never been in a school since they graduated.
I would throw out to you one other about that is if you look at the skills Google and Tesla are looking for, I don't think you're going to see many of those skills on that state assessment. Those are skills we need to be teaching our kids to be able to perform at a high level. Courtney, you were wanting to add something.
Nope. She just was agreeing with what you said. But the fact is that everybody who sits on these type of boards, we know this, staff knows this. What we're having a hard time doing is upward managing. Downward management gets it, everybody gets it, everybody knows because we're all touching it every day, but we are not upward managing our politicians to understand this.
Nor could you.
We gotta do a better job advocating.
They don't want to listen to you.
Well,
Sit down with the state legislature sometime and ask them these questions.
I certainly do.
They'll
I
change
go
the
there twice a
subject
year.
on-
and give it a-
turn on your hearing aid.
The fact is,
Because we don't give them money. If there's nothing else. we're
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dr. Norton.
She's already gone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Shut off the microphone.
Have to sign this?
Why?
I don't know. Just what it says. For you to sign it.
Did we do that?